Hey everybody, it's Mitch, and welcome to my next video. Today, well, to my live stream actually. I know I'm running a little late. I'm quite late actually. Hopefully, I'll show are still here. I know I should have done this like an hour ago. Um, I've got a new job that's coming up. Hopefully, starts tomorrow. Um, Running into some hiccups, so we'll see if it actually happens. But yeah. Um, Anyways, we're back. This is a new camera angle, which hopefully is better. I know it's got some issues with my background, but it is what it is. So yeah, just wanted to say first off, thank you for the 500 subscribers. I could not have done this without you. It really means a lot to me. I think we're up to what 542. Like it's getting insane. Thank you guys so much for continuing to like support the channel and support me and all that. Like it really does mean a lot. So yeah. Um, yeah, we are going to we'll be talking about kind of whatever you guys want. If you guys have any questions or comments about D&D 3.5, feel free to leave that in chat and we can discuss that. Yeah, but I've been working on well, the last few months I've been working more on my Twitch channel, to be fair. But I am planning on starting to really push hard on YouTube again. Like I say, um, right now I'm in the middle of I'm really pushing hard to get affiliates. So once I get that, I think I'll start working on YouTube. Although I am going to be starting a job like in the next couple days. So yeah, we'll figure out how that all works. But I do have some video ideas in mind. I'm working on that. Yeah. If any of you guys are curious on any of that, feel free to let me know. I'm more than happy to give you more information. Or if you just want to talk about D&D, it's all good. I really, really appreciate. This is for you guys. Like I appreciate the support that you guys have given me here on the channel. It really means a lot to me. And yeah, I'm really really curious to I'm really looking forward to talking with you guys. I love these live chats where I can just talk with you guys about D&D 3.5. It's so fun to do. This will be the last one for a while until we hit our next subscriber goal, which is 1,000 subscribers, which we're already like making decent progress towards, surprisingly. So maybe it won't be too terribly long. But yeah, we'll be doing some more when we hit that. But this will be the last live stream for a while on YouTube. I do have I do live stream on Twitch if you guys enjoy that. I just beat my first Pokemon Challenge run yesterday on there. I did what I'm playing Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles and Animal Crossing New Horizons. So if you're curious on that, you can definitely check out my Twitch channel. Yeah, we're here mostly today for Dungeons and Dragons 3.5, and feel free to ask me questions over there about that. I have a lot of time where I'm not really where I don't chat's dead for large chunks of the time. So yeah, definitely feel free to stop by and hang out there. But yeah, we are talking about D&D 3.5. If you guys have any questions, anything you want to ask, I do apologize for being late on this one. Hopefully you guys like the new camera angle. Oh, sweet. John Gilbert, really glad I found your channel a week ago, or so ago. Nice. Your Frenzied Berserker vid is how I found you. Oh, nice. That was a pretty good one. Keep up the great work, and we'll keep spreading the word, bud. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, the Frenzied Berserker one, that's a pretty fun video. And yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, and I'm glad you did, because part of like my strategy for like growth on YouTube, and a big reason why I make all the videos on classes, races, and prestige classes is by making one on every single class, race, and prestige class, it really increases my chance of being discovered in the 3.5 space. That's a big part of why I've done that, is by having a video for every single class, race, prestige class. I tend to rank very high in search when you try to search up the various classes, races, and prestige classes. So By doing that on all of them, the odds of someone finding me is much higher. So that is part of why I've done that. But I also just like making them on there. That's actually how I started the channel too. So, um, that wasn't really the plan initially, but it's something that I started to do and started to think, yeah, this actually is a good idea. I should keep that up. But yeah, let's see. Or wow, 8. Uh, you don't have your Twitch channel linked. You're about. Hey, John, I don't actually. I should do that. I can do that after the stream. Uh, but yeah, I have not integrated the two yet. I really should. I think I think there's sort of a way because I have a second YouTube channel, which is my VODs for Twitch, which is linked at the bottom of my YouTube channel. For it's one of the channels I recommend. I only recommend like two, I think, and I think on my second channel, I have that, so it's possible to find, but very difficult. I can link it in the description though. My VODs, my Twitch VODs do second channel. Literally, I'm the only subscriber to. Like this channel is the only subscriber to my VODs channel, which is fine. Like I put like no work into that. I created it and then Twitch just well, it's not automatic, but I just manually I just hit a button after every stream and it just uploads the video. So it's a pretty low maintenance thing. But yeah, if you're interested in that, that's something you can definitely check out. I'm actually doing an affiliate push right now, really hoping to try and get that. So if you guys show up there, that would actually be really helpful. I actually am going to be streaming on there as soon as I finish this stream, to be honest. That's actually what I've been doing the last few weeks. But yeah, I mean, just a link to find you. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can pop that in chat. That's not an issue. That should be it. So like, double check, make sure that actually does pop up properly. Yep. So I think it did. Let me make for sure it does. Yeah, that's me. So yeah, if you're curious, you don't have to, but you're definitely welcome to check me out over there. That's what I've been doing the last little while. I'm getting close to affiliate actually. About what? I just need to get my average viewership up over there. But yeah, we can talk about that if you want, or we can talk about D&D 3.5. It's kind of whatever. I'm earlier than usual. I'm a little, but I think it's more I'm later than usual. So I guess that kind of worked out for you. Maybe I should have been starting these later because that does seem to be helpful. There's more of you here that earlier than normal, so maybe I should have been doing these later. I'm just running late, and weirdly, it's working out for the better. So yeah, at least so far. But I do apologize for being late. Working on work stuff. It is what it is. But yeah, I'm hopefully going to be starting work in the next couple days. Just got to finish some trainings, and then I should be good to start, which will be nice to get some income. I haven't had income in a while, so that will definitely be nice. But yeah, if you guys got any questions or anything, hey Mitch, what's your favorite class, prestige class, and favorite character you've played? Ooh, great question. Actually, great. What, 3 questions? Favorite class. Ooh, favorite class, prestige class. Ooh, that's a tough one. There's so many good ones. There's several that I really really like. Frenzy the Berserker is actually really high up there. I just love just how crazy and chaotic it is. I really like the Thurge classes or the Urge classes. I know I pronounced them wrong. I really like those a lot. So, Mystic the Urge, I know it's underpowered for the Urge classes because it's the original. Let's see. Arcane Hierophant's a really fun one. Cerebromancer is quite nice. it's kind of interesting to throw in some psionics into the mix. You don't get to see that very often. Let's see. Uh, yeah, I tend to, I my style tends to be either like really crazy physical, like barbarian kind of stuff, or I go the opposite direction and I go like high wizard power stuff. Sometimes I'll mix the two together and do a Gish build. Those can be really fun. Come up with some of that. So that kind of stuff can be fun. My favorite character, though, that one is not a hard question at all. My favorite character is well, I did a video on him. It's Roger Lanchester. I have it's my, I think it was the very first build video that I have on the channel is his build. It's literally just fighter, odd levels, druid, even levels. And he's sort of a makeshift glued together ranger that uses a sword and shield, because there's not really a good way to do sword and shield with a ranger. It's really designed for either two-hand fighting or two-weapon fighting or ranged. There's really if you try and do sword and shield, it just doesn't it doesn't work well, because you're like getting all these other things for free that it's not really free. So I'm just like, so I created my own with fighter ranger, or it's not fighter druid, and I really enjoy that. I know it's not the most optimal build in the world, but I really enjoyed that character. Very self-made guy. Like his whole one of his color, one of the whole things with him. I actually based him off of like Rambo, but one of the things with him is he is designed to only use things that he makes himself. He refuses to use anything that he didn't make himself. So he's very much a self-made man, and I really like that guy. Row 8, my 3.5 game was canceled. No one I knows plays it. Oh, that's rough. I've had that happen to me a number of times. My 3.5 game's still going on. Played every Friday with my friends. You've met a few of them if you've seen my Devil Conquest videos. That's I have what, 2 of those, and yeah, that's actually the campaign that I'm currently playing in on Fridays. I need to make part 3 of that here fairly soon. Get the guys all together for that. Especially if you guys are interested in watching those. But yeah, that's one of my favorite. That's the game I'm playing. I'm sorry to hear yours was canceled. I am considering doing a game on like doing games with like probably fans or potentially other like YouTubers or streamers or something. I'm not sure. I'm thinking of doing something. But if I was going to do it, I would require that like everybody have like a camera, but they'll have like a camera and like agree to be on the my YouTube channel. And if we did it on my Twitch channel, like we live streamed it there, and possibly like they'd have to agree to like they'd have to agree to that. If I was going to set something like that up. Like the current game I have, I can't put on here really to any greater extent than I have already. My players have only agreed to do audio and not of the game itself. They wanted of, just a recap for, basically we recap recap half a year in one video. So we spend like an hour and a half recapping for a whole year, for a whole semester, because we played at school. And yeah, that's basically been our way of doing that. But if I wanted to do something more legit, like actual like live D&D gameplay footage, I kind of want to do that, but I can't do that with this group, because not everyone's cool with that. And I'm not going to be like, hey, you have to agree to that to be in the game. Like, I'm not going to do that midway through. I would start a game with that premise, be like, hey, we're starting this game, and if you want in, you have to agree to that. Sure, but that's different than like, oh, we already have this game and I'm going to kick you out if you're not interested. No, that's it. That's messed up. But starting it from the get-go with the intention of it being like streamed on Twitch and then like put on YouTube, that's a very different matter. So yeah, that is something I'm thinking about. If I don't know if I have the following on here to pull that off or not yet. Let's see. Ooh, I got a few chats. John Gilbert. I had a, gnome frenzied Zerker a long, long time ago. Ooh, gnome, interesting. That was a ridiculous amount of fun to play. If you had kneecaps, better not upset little Bill. Yeah, I bet. That sounds kind of fun. Yeah, frenzied berserkers. They're absolutely hilarious to play. Just because of the fact that it's like, all right, we won, we beat the bad guy. Now we got to figure out how to deal with our friend Berserker because he's mad and possibly he's using his deathless frenzy feature, and we got to figure out how to heal him without him killing us. Yay! Um, yeah, that was always fun. Frenzy Berserkers are they're such a fun prestige class. In my current game, our Frenzy Berserker once decided to just punch an ice statue, and I had him roll to see if he took damage, and he took damage from it, like not much, but he had to roll a will save to not go into frenzy. And he was alone at the time alone away from the party, in the middle of town. Normally not a place where you'd worry about being separated from the party. But when you're a frenzied berserker and you just punch something that causes you to take damage, you might go on a killing spree and just kill a bunch of random civilians. Not exactly a good thing to do, especially when the party's not there to stop you, because you can't do anything to stop yourself other than that will save. Um, so yeah, he ended up making the save, but that was a tense moment. He's like, "Ah, crap! I got to make this will save, or I'm going to go on a killing spree, and or I'll be forced to go on a killing spree and murder a bunch of innocent civilians." Luckily, that didn't happen, but he was one will save away from it. Um, yeah, Frenzy Berserkers can be fun. Let's see. Another one from Alder. My favorite is Incantrix Wizard. Ooh, Incantrix can be really powerful. Meta Magic, go burr. Yeah, I love full casters in general. Mostly the which spell do I use vibe, especially when it's not Fireball or Ray of Invenerate maximize spam. Yeah, Fireball's actually it's a really popular spell, but it's actually really underpowered. Well, I mean it's underpowered in the sense that there's a lot of ways to resist it. Like how to resist Fireball. Let's see. You can have a good reflex save. Evasion helps. Let's see. What else can you do for that? You can have a good spell resistance. That'll protect you from it. You can also have fire resistance, and you can also have all three of them, or you can have all of those things and make it so that you're very unlikely to take any damage from Fireball. Okay, but at the same time, there's also the whole matter of um, it does do a lot of damage for a third level spell, and it is a area of effect. So it's pretty good in that regard, but it's very easy to resist. I find that damaging spells do tend to mix the two. The spells that uh, tend to do a lot of damage to a lot of people, they're just really nasty spells, are easy to resist, at least compared to other spells or level. But other spells that are very difficult to resist tend to do less damage, but they can be virtually impossible to resist. Like, what was it? Hellfire Storm, I believe, is a really good example of that one. Um, it just works. It's an area of effect spell. It's like an 8th level spell, I think, or maybe ninth. It's really high level, but you can't resist it. There's no saving throw. I don't think there's spell resistance, and it does hellfire damage, which is unresistible. So, like, in its area of effect, you get hit with that, you take the damage. There's no way to avoid damage on that other than just not be where the spell was targeted. Um, that's really the only way to avoid the damage on that one. But it doesn't do a ton of damage for an 8th level spell. I think it does like comparable to Fireball, and Fireball's a 3rd level spell. This is like 8th, 9th level, but it's impossible. It's basically impossible to resist. You're taking that damage. So yeah, but yeah, it's really interesting to try and like come up with spells. I do agree with you on that. And Cantrix is nuts. Uh, just being able to make spells that have any sort of duration just last all day. It's absolutely insane. You can get some really broken things with Cantrix. Very very good stuff. Um, Yeah, just like all day haste. It's like, yeah, I have haste. It just lasts all day. Okay, cool. Um, or like other spell. There's what was it? Spells that let you or what Wraith Strike. That's becomes an amazing spell with incantrix. There's so many like spells that normally are okay because they're only supposed to last for like one round. Now all of a sudden they last like all day, and they're just permanent buffs basically. And Cantrix is really potent for that. Let's see. Um, that would be interesting if schedule allows. I'd be done. Awesome. Uh, but I'm glad to hear that. But yeah, that is something that I am. That is something I've been thinking about for a long time now. Is yeah, getting a game of D&D like on Twitch and YouTube, where we play D&D on Twitch and then we upload the videos on YouTube, and there's just live D&D gameplay on the channel. Um, I don't have that currently just because I don't have other people that are willing to do that with me. At least I didn't. I may or may not now. You guys might be able to help me with that one. But that's up to you guys. Like, no pressure or anything. Um, yeah, that wouldn't be fair. Yeah, it'd be completely unfair if I like kicked my if I told my players that they were out of the group if they if they didn't agree to be on camera. Like, no, that's messed up. Like, I straight up told them, "Hey, I'm thinking of doing this. If any one of you says no, we're not doing it. If every single one of you agrees unanimously, then we're doing it." And it wasn't unanimous. Surprise, surprise. I kind of didn't expect that to happen. But yeah, I told them that it would only happen if it was unanimously agreed upon. And it wasn't. So, it is what it is. Didn't expect it to be unanimously agreed upon. We moved past it. But all but one of the players did agree to do the devil downtime videos. Well, all the ones that are in the video agreed to it, and the ones that didn't, they're just not going to be part of the video. We're just going to be talking about them without them there, which will be a little weird, but it is what it is. But then we're not going to get to that till like video 4, anyways. But yeah, I played a half orc paladin, nice, named Grok. Cool name for an orc. Love those. Uh, he always had to hold himself in because he wanted to be seen as a civilized individual. But deep down, and in the middle of the battle, in the bloodlust came out. Deep down in the middle of battle, the bloodlust came out. Nice. That sounds really cool. I like that. That's a really interesting idea, like a half orc paladin, like because paladins they're half human too, like. Half orc's actually a really interesting race. People often like think half orc and they think like, oh, you're playing an orc. It's like, I mean, you're only half orc. You're half human too. It's a very like complicated race. But I do like the idea of like a half orc being a paladin and like trying to like his human side to keep everything in and be like, yes, I am a civilized man. I follow. I follow the rules. I am a good person. I am an upstanding member of society. I follow my deity with pride and passion. Uh, very much human like. And then like, battle comes out and that orcish blood just starts boiling and you're like, kill it all. But at the same time, like holding yourself back like enough to be like, okay, we're only going to kill these guys. We're not going to kill those guys. Those are our friends. Which I mean, even orcs can distinguish on that. So, yeah, that's actually a really cool idea. I love concepts like that aren't just like boring. You know what I mean? Yeah, really cool idea. I really love that. Um, yeah, that's really love that one. Rao. Am I saying that right? Half orc is my favorite. Exactly. That's how I played him. Awesome. Yeah, half orc's really complicated. I really like the whole duality because you can play as an orc in 3.5 as well. It's not as well known, but it is core. It's not in the player's handbook, but the rules for playing as an orc are in the monster manual. And it's one of the easiest monsters and probably the most common monsters in the monster manual to adapt. I don't know if it's the most, but it's definitely like at the top of the list of monsters in the monster manual that people play as characters, because people see half orc and they're like, what if I go full orc? Um, which is actually not bad. It's no level adjustment, and you get a +4 to strength instead of just +2. And you also and the only extra downside over half orc is an extra what -2 wisdom as well, because or half orc is charisma and intelligence, and then you just get a -2. So you just get a -2 to all your dumb stat, all your well, dumb stats, but mental stats. Is what I meant to say, but they are dumb stats for orcs generally, because they generally play barbarians, and barbarians don't need mental stats at all. Not really. So yeah, and I think you get like light aversion too, which isn't too bad. But yeah, full orc can be quite fun. Um, let's see, half orc, basically Bruce Banner and the Hulk, or Craig from Borderlands 2. I haven't played Borderlands 2, but I am a big Marvel fan, so I know exactly what you're talking about with Banner and the Hulk. Yeah, that does make sense. Uh, yeah, and half orcs actually have like a really like sad existence too. Typically, a lot of people don't think about this, but half orcs are often shunned from human society because humans look at them as like orcs, which are monsters, and they're just like, no, you're uncivilized. I don't want anything to do with you. Like they're scared, and they are pushed out aside. But then in orc society, they suffer similar problems. Um, the other orcs look at them as weak and feeble. They're like, you have all these emotions, and you have like this humanity to you. Also, your muscles aren't as big as ours, and they just are cast aside as just weak runts, both physically and emotionally weak. Is the way orcs look at half orcs, and they're often pushed aside for that reason. Um, you know, it's possible that a half orc could do well there. Get a leadership position just because they're smart. They, would tend to be a little bit smarter. I know their intelligence buffs are the same, but a half orc would be more likely to put intelligence as a higher stat than a full orc would. And for that reason, maybe they could obtain some sort of leadership there, but typically they're just going to be looked at as weak, both physically and emotionally, by the orcs, and they're going to be looked at as like monsters by humans. It's a really sad existence. There's really no place for them. Yeah, kind of sucks to be a half orc in the D&D world. Um, yeah, it's a rough existence for them, for those half orcs. Everyone just, but most people, when they think half orc, like your first instinct is like, oh yeah, you get to play a monster. Like most people, like most humans, when they look at the class, like most of us, when we first see it, not the class, the race, we think, oh yeah, we get to play a monster, but only like half. That's cool. But no, there's more to them. There's a lot of depth to the race, which I think is really cool, and it's lost on a lot of people. But I really do, I really do like the half orc. It's a fun one, and they are brutish, which I mean they are part orc, which is fun. It is fun to play brutish characters. At least I enjoy playing brutish characters. I like playing either brutish characters or highly intelligent spellcasters. One or the other. I know they're kind of polar opposites, but I generally those are the two that I kind of personally prefer. So yeah, I often find myself either playing like a half orc barbarian or like a human wizard. You can a lot of the times I'll do the urge classes too, just because I like the versatility, like having multiple different options of what I want to have for spell casting. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. Yeah. Let's see. Hmm. Don't have anything in chat. I'm having a hard time transitioning into anything from that. But yeah. Uh, yeah, but I do like the half orcs. They go into a lot of detail in um, what was it? uh, Races of Destiny. Races of Destiny goes into a lot of detail on the half orcs, not just half orcs, but also half elves and like all the half races, which is pretty cool. They even come up with a few other ones. I think mongrel folks in there. So yeah, they really flesh out the race, which I like. And I think I did mention in my half orc video, although that was what, like 7, 8 years ago at this point. Ah, man, I didn't even know what I was doing on here back then. Although those are still some of my most popular videos, just because it's core probably. Let's see, half orcs, one half human who shuns them as monsters, uh, and part orcs whom shun them as weak. Despite both halves balancing a monster's power and a human's rationality, neither is properly respected. Yeah, that's very true. Um, yeah, the humans they shun them as monsters. The orcs shun them as weak, but they balance the two. Um, they make good barbarians. Like they make a good character that could potentially make like use like good strategy, which orcs tend to not be the best at. They tend to have a lot of the brutish strength of the orc, which barbarians actually a pretty good class, and they're able to, um, you know, go into society to some extent, something that orcs struggle to. I mean, if you're an orc walking up to the town gate, people are like, "Yo," but you're half orc, they're like, "Fine, I'll let you in." Like you could actually get into town as a half orc, unlike a full orc. Um, so yeah, half orcs, they're a really good race for if you want to make a barbarian. And barbarians are one of the better not prestige, one of the better base classes in core. Like they just are. I have a video on that. I think I mean, they didn't make the top, but they made second tier on that. They're in what part two of my top 3-5 best classes in 3-5. So yeah, they're good. They're definitely good. Um, they just hit so hard. It's absolutely ridiculous how hard you can hit as a barbarian. And making the build's pretty easy too. Make your strength as high as you can. Power attack for a lot. Um, yeah, if you're allowed non-core materials, go frenzied berserker to do extra on power attack and also up your damage a little bit. Very good. Frenzied berserkers freaking. The fact that they get once you get to all 10 levels of it, you get double the bonus for power attack is absolutely insane. It's very good. But yeah, barbarian is definitely one of the better classes, and the half orc does them well. Let's see. Let's see. Never played a wizard or a sorcerer. Ooh, really? Wizard and sorcerer are fun. They're some of the better classes. The magic classes are the best. It like full casters, the most powerful. Period. Like or okay, not I guess. I guess it's not full stop on that, but like we're talking once you get to mid levels, once you get some levels in you, yeah, wizard, sorcerer, cleric, druid, definitely best. But when you're talking like first level, wizard, sorcerer aren't too great for the most part. Large numbers of them are actually far more potent than large numbers of fighters and stuff. But for most typical encounters that you'll face, you're better off with a barbarian or a fighter than a wizard at first level. Because you're just so limited. At first level, you have like a small handful of spells that you get for the whole day. So, if you're having to fight multiple encounters, you might not be able to use spells for all of them. And that can be problematic. You're squishy. You have virtually no AC, almost no HP. Like a first level wizard is going to have what, like 6 health? Woo. Um, Not exactly great. Whereas the barbarian's going to have what, like 15? Uh, so yeah, it's a bit of a difference there. Um, so yeah, it's kind of at early levels, but at early levels wizards are kind of bad, but once you start getting to like 5th level, they start to really come into their own skin in a big way. And by 10th level, they're just overpowered. And by 20th level, it's not even really a fair comparison anymore. Um, so yeah, and then 20th level is right before it gets really ridiculous. Once you get to 21st, once you start getting into epic and get epic spell casting, full casters are just broken beyond belief. They are just so much over more powerful than the martial classes. Once you get into epic, it's epic spell casting is insane. But yeah, early levels they're it's kind of weak. It's like first level. They very quickly come into their skin though. Let's see. Yeah, we just started a D&D 3.5 game. Core rules only. Nice, nice. I made a character which which the DM took. Wait, what? He took all of our characters and switched them around randomly. What? Okay, that's weird. I don't know if I'd be okay with the DM doing that personally, but all right. I'm now a human wizard and chose to specialize in conjuration with feats, focus, conjuration, augment, summoning, very good feats, but clueless where to go from here. LOL, hard player to play. Yeah, wizard's actually one of the hardest classes to play. Um, Really spell selection is where most of the customization comes from on wizards, and they can change that daily. So because with the spells they prepare and spells known, there isn't exactly a limit on how many spells they can know. There's a limit of 2 per level uh, with no gold cost. um, you get 2 new spells every time you level up, 2 new spells known every time you level up, which is nice. But you also can buy scrolls, and with those scrolls you can learn more spells, and there's no limit on how many you can do. You're only limited by how many scrolls you're willing to buy and how much money you are getting. So there's no like, oh, I gotta wait till the next level. It's like, no, I got some money, let's buy the scroll for that and grab it. So wizards are pretty versatile in that. Feats are important though. Uh, there's some good prestige classes for them too. Oh, what is it? The Archwizard, I think, or the Archmage. Yeah, the Archmage. That's what it's called. In the DMG, that's a pretty good prestige class. I know you're doing core only, which this is DMG, so it's core. Unless they aren't allowing prestige classes at all, this one should be allowed since it is in the Dungeon Master's Guide. So it's a pretty good one. You don't lose too much, and you gain some. You can gain some pretty useful abilities from it. So something to look into at the very least. Let's see. What melee class can compete at higher levels with full casters? The rogue and the barbarian are the only ones that even come close, at least in core. Yeah, because if you have a rogue, you can really, if you focus on sneak attack just right, the amount of damage you can do with sneak attack can be quite devastating. Plus, if you have the right magic items and abilities and everything, your ability to sneak around can be very useful. That high stealth is very, very nice. And yeah, just being able to stealth around and do sneak attack damage can be potent. Now, you're going to be somewhat difficult to kill, and you're going to be doing a lot of damage. Downside to the rogue, of course, is the fact that no one's targeting you means that the enemies are going to be more likely to target your allies. So you're not providing any sort of coverage for your allies other than, helping to kill stuff. So you're helping to kill stuff, but you're not like taking the weight of the aggro off of your allies at all, because you're just hiding and not taking any of the aggro yourself, which is good for you, not the best for your party, but not bad. Barbarians, they are great at taking aggro. Everyone sees a charging, people see charging barbarians and they're like, oh, yeah, let's go for that guy. He's scary. Um, barbarians are naturally good at drawing aggro, but at the same time, they hit like a freaking tank, and they can take more abuse than really any other class out there. They're really good at taking a hit. Um, barbarian, they can hit really hard, and in combat they can keep up to some extent with the casters, better than most melee classes. That's one of the better ones. Although when you get into town, the barbarian falls apart. Barbarians more of a hindrance than a help when you get into town. Barbarians tend to they tend to get in the way when you get to town and you have to like deal with the barkeeper or deal with the random NPCs in town and just try and go about normal daily life without getting arrested. Barbarians make that harder. They're just not good at that usually. They have terrible charisma. They tend to be overly aggressive. They tend to be not the best people to have around. Rogues can have that problem, but it really depends on how you play your rogues. Rogues can actually be very, very helpful in town, but it very much depends on who's playing that rogue and how they're playing them, because rogues can be very much a hindrance or very much a help in town, or anywhere in between, really. Usually, it's usually one of the extremes though with rogues. Also, there's Tome of Battle. All the classes in there are pretty solid. I'm not super familiar with them, but the classes in Tome of Battle are actually designed to try and keep up with the spellcasters. They really give a lot of buffs to sort of magic-like buffs to spellcasters, but they're not magic. They just feel like magic. So they're all extraordinary abilities, and I think it's all extraordinary abilities, and they're designed to mimic things that you get from magic, but with extreme effort of physical, like extreme training, in order to get magic-like effects. I guess so. Yeah, you can like teleport like non-magically with some of them. There's some pretty cool maneuvers and stances and stuff. You can get like energy resistance with stances, and there's all sorts of cool stuff. The Tome of Battle stuff, very useful. And it actually stacks well with other stuff, since your what is it? I'm trying to remember what the term it is, but it's not cash level. It's not managed. I forget the term, but your level for your stances is actually your level of classes from Tome of Battle plus half of all your other classes. So you do actually advance that when taking other classes. So that actually makes it so that you get some real stackage with both with other martial classes like fighter and stuff, but also with spellcasting itself. I've seen some really good stuff. Really good builds combining that with other magic to just get extra potency. Can be quite powerful. Let's see. There is a lot to keep track of as a wizard. Yeah, absolutely. Wizard's one of the hardest. Spell selection, environment, the party, casting components if DM uses them. Casting components, you can just use spell component pouch and get around that for the most part, and your own mortality. There's a lot of that. Plus, wizard is the only class in core that requires you to have both a spells known list and a spells prepared list. You have to have both as a wizard, and they're the only class in core that requires that. There's others when you start having other books, but in core, wizards are the only ones that you have to have both. So yeah, wizards are probably the single hardest class to play in core. Uh, they're a great class. They're really powerful, and the difficulty of playing them actually does give more flexibility in how you can play them. But it's very much not recommended for new players. For new players, you're far better off being like a fighter or a barbarian or something. Just because those are really easy to get your head around. There's not too much you have to figure out with them. Um, Although, once you've played for a little while, switching to something more complicated can be fun. But yeah, wizard it's probably the single hardest class to play. Uh, it really is. They're very very good, but they're difficult to play. There's a lot of management. You have to pick your spells, and you have to for spells known. Then you have to like pick which ones that you're prepared that day. You have to pick all your feats. Yeah, and as you were saying with the environment, yeah, if you want to be being particularly effective, you're going to want to use control spells, spells that will like uh, I'm trying to remember the actual term, but spells that will, uh, you know, that'll like area control stuff that will, battlefield control. Battlefield control, that's the term. It's blanking that for a sec. But yeah, battlefield control spells are some of the most potent if you want to be really good, but you need to be tactically minded in order to pull them off. Like if you don't use battlefield control spells correctly, they're going to backfire on you. So and knowing how to use them correctly requires a tactical mind. So it is what it is. But yeah, you're gonna have to figure that out um, to do that. So there's so much, and yeah, keeping yourself alive because you tend to be squishy. Um, Being a wizard is tough. It's a very tough role, but it can be very very potent if done correctly. But I can understand if you've never played a wizard before, and especially if you're newer to D&D. Yeah, wizard's a tough one to do. Let's see. The Hulker again from last week. We mentioned this sentient war crime. Yeah, the hulking hurler's pretty crazy. That thing is like being able to throw the moon is insane. Although that requires that requires some that requires a lot of stuff. Like, and it requires some loose rulings to be able to throw the moon. Now, without any of that, you're going to be limited to throwing a mountain, which is not much of a limit at all. It's far less than the moon, like many orders of magnitude less than the moon, but it's still absolutely insane to be able to just pick up a mountain and throw it. Yeah, that hulking hurler's nuts. Paladin can somewhat compete with cast. Oh yeah, I forgot about the paladin. Except that one of the things with paladin is the paladin is a caster. It's not a good caster. It's one of the worst casters in core, but it is a caster. Um, uh, the paladin and the ranger are hands down the worst casters in core. Like there's no argument that the casting ability of the paladin and ranger is less than that of the bard or the wizard or the sorcerer or the cleric. No question on that. But at the same time, it's like, I mean, they're better than the monk or the fighter or the rogue or the barbarian, but they don't have casting. Like those aren't casters. Paladin is technically a caster, but it's it's not the greatest at it. Although its spells are quite potent and they do work really well with the stuff the paladins do get. So I'm definitely not underestimating a paladin. Um, the spells that they get, or a ranger, their spells are very potent. Um, and there's a lot of great ways to make really good use of them. Prestige classes that gain paladin and ranger spells at an advanced rate. Oof, those can be really good. So yeah, the prestige classes that give paladin and ranger spells, very good prestige classes in general, because they tend to be combat focused, so they tend to have good base attack bonuses, and they're a good way to get access to these spells with less resource investment. So very very nice. Um, but yeah, paladin can be quite potent. Just their natural ability to add their charisma to all their saves is really good. Uh, let's see, the fact that they're tend to be really good chargers. Like they're really good with mounted combat and using lance, using a lance to get like really really strong charge attacks. They work great with cavalier. Then of course they have their trying to remember the. Ah, man, I'm terrible with remembering terminology right now for some reason. Uh, oh, man, I'm spacing the name, but anyways, yeah, they tend to do tons and tons and tons of damage, um, and they're good in town too. Like they're not just brutes, like they're brutes on the battlefield, but in town they're very very personable. Um, it's not uncommon to see a paladin with maxed out diplomacy, which is of course a very useful skill in town. Um, and it can be useful on the battlefield too. I mean, if you're high level and have that maxed out, like taking a -10 to do a rush diplomacy check as a full round action can be really potent. It can take enemies and just make them like stop attacking. You use your turn and make the to like talk the enemy down. That can be really potent. Just it's like, hey, I don't want to do this combat. Let's talk the enemy out of it. Like that's kind of big. I've seen it happen with Art Party's Paladin many times. He's just made combat not happen by just talking the enemies down. Um, it's quite useful. And then when enemies can't be talked down, it's usually they're generally ones that he's particularly good at dealing with his lance. So yeah, Paladin's very very good. Let's see. Uh, let's Paladin. Yeah, don't know. Never played them. They sound very linear to me. And Cleric can do Pal's job too. Yeah, Cleric's actually pretty nice. Although Cleric's different. They don't have as good a base attack bonus, but they can get some pretty nice bonuses from their spells. Their spells can make them very, very competent in combat. Paladins, Paladins don't have a whole lot of wiggle room in how you play them. They're very rigid by design. Like the Paladin code requires you to play within very narrow guidelines. Paladin's one of the easiest classes to motivate as a DM. Just be like, yeah, so there's a big bad evil guy. He's doing bad things, and the Lord and the person that you report to has ordered you to go save the land from this. Like whoever it is that you report to, your superior, or maybe you worship a deity, like an emissary of the deity told you to do that. Yeah, Paladin's going for that every time. There's no real. The Paladin's not going to be like, should I save the world? My God told me told me to do it, and they're bad and evil and go against everything I stand for. But I was going to do this instead. No, they're freaking saving the world. Paladins are very easy to motivate, unlike with a fighter or a fighter or a wizard or a sorcerer, which are some of the most notoriously difficult, or a rogue. Actually, rogue fits in there well, which are some of the most notoriously difficult character types to motivate. You have to look at that character and be like, okay, why should they save the world? What's in it for them? Because it depends on how they're playing it, but a lot of times players, you're going to need to motivate their character. You're going to need to think, what's in it for them? Why would they want to save the world? Paladins, there's no question that they're going to do it, especially if they're told to by their superior, which you control, so you can just have them do it. But yeah, Paladins are very, very rigid, unlike clerics, which have so many options. Although clerics are somewhat rigid by nature as well. They they have to be within one alignment of their deity, and I think it's one alignment. Maybe they have to be the same one. I think it's one alignment. Pretty sure it's one alignment step. But at the same time, yeah, they have to, like, they're very restricted on a lot of stuff. So yeah, paladin or cleric, but they have a lot of freedom of what kind of cleric to be. Do they want to be a heal bot? That's an option as a cleric. Do they want to have be a combat cleric? Also an option. They're quite good at that. They have all the defensive capabilities as a fighter, other than the tower shield. But they can use heavy armor, so that's nice. But they have really great spells, which can, depending on which spells they select, can really affect what kind of paladin, what kind of cleric they are. They can be very paladin-like, or they can be very, they can be very different in a lot of different ways. They can be very fighter-like. They can be very They can kind of be their own thing where they're just a heal bot. Um, yeah, lots of options for clerics. Paladins less so. The paladins have more. They kind of have more options than barbarian though. Barbarian, I mean, they're chaotic. They're not very rigid, but I mean, high strength, hit real hard with two-handed weapon and power attack. That's really the only way to play a barbarian effectively is hit real hard with two-handed weapon and power attack. Um, that's the way to do it. It's a great option and it just makes sense. You don't have to do that, but if you don't, you're probably not as effective. Although maybe I'm missing something. So feel free if you got an idea, if you have ways to play them that can compete or even better, let me know. Like I'm curious, but yeah, um, uh, GTM, keep me in mind if you start that game. Yeah, absolutely, man. Um, I that is something that I am definitely thinking about doing. I'll if I start to start that, I'll be putting like some videos out, putting to try and gauge engagement. I'm not to that point yet, but yeah, that is something I've been thinking about for a while. Is just starting a D&D game for that'll be on Twitch. But if I did do that, and then I'd put that on YouTube, all the footage. Basically, if I was going to do that, though, yeah, everyone would have to be on camera and microphone, and we would play, and you'd have to agree to be on the channel. Yeah, that would be a requirement for everyone if I start that. But yeah, that's and I'd probably have to do some level of checking to make sure everyone's like cool and not gonna like you know start doing stuff that might get me demonetized or something. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's definitely something I gotta that I'm thinking of looking into. I don't know if I have the size yet to or like the clout yet to pull it off, but because a lot of people are private and a lot of people that might be interested in playing a game, the fact that they'd have to agree to that might put them off, and that's fine. I don't want anyone to feel pressured into doing it. If you want to play but you don't feel comfortable on camp, then that's fine. Just I'd rather you just watch. That's fine. You don't need to be pressured on that. Um, it's just an idea, and I figure if I grow enough, eventually there'll be enough people that are willing to do that. So yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at with that. But yeah, I hope to see you around Ruwao. Uh, Rogue is super hard to motivate unless you say money or really shiny killer weapon. Yeah, that's very true. Rogues tend to be they tend to be very hard to motivate unless you give them money or a shiny weapon. Money tends to work pretty well, and money is a fairly easy motivator, especially if this is like a single campaign. Be like, hey, when you beat the campaign, you're going to get 1,000,000 gold or some crazy amount, and you can make it as high as you want, and the rogue's going to be like, ooh, nice. And then you give it to him at the end and say, all right, session over, or you don't. Well, that's kind of a dick move. But you say, all right, here's the money now. What do you plan on doing with it? Let them describe. Okay, this is what I'm going to do with that. Kind of role play with them out real quickly. Spend maybe 10, 20 minutes, maybe half an hour with the players one-on-one discussing like what they're going to be doing after they receive their money, and then end the session. And people tend to be happy with that. And you can give as arbitrarily high amounts of money as you like because there's not going to be any combat. Fight's over. World's basically done. And it's all just, as you move on. So that's a good way to motivate people. Now, if you're planning on having the game continue after your initial campaign, do like a multi-campaign session, or not session, a multi-campaign game, then you got to think a little harder. But and you can't just make arbitrarily high amounts of gold. Or you make something happen where they're unable to get their gold once they complete the campaign. They might be ticked off, but you don't just make it so like, oh, we decided not to pay. You'd be like, oh, well, the king was going to pay, but then the kingdom got destroyed, so now he's not there anymore, and he can't really pay you. Maybe you're going to go collect your gold from the guy who killed him. Um, you know, maybe that's how you get it, or something like that. You find some way where it's like there's no way they're getting paid. Like it's just not possible. The guy's not holding out on you. It's things have happened that have made paying up impossible. Um, that can be fun, and then you can use that as motivation for the next campaign that people move into. So yeah, let's see. Fighters can be the same way. Yeah, although fighters less so than rogues, they tend to be less motivated by that. But yeah, the whole concept of the cell sword, very much so with fighters. Although it very much depends on the alignment of the fighter. The chaotic neutral fighter, yeah, they're going to be similar to the rogue. That's going to be your cell sword probably. That's going to be your guy that's not going to want to help save the world unless unless the payment's right. They're like, oh yeah, how much you paying for this job? That's going to be something that a fighter's going to think about. My throat's getting a little scratchy. Just get a little water, help that clear up. But yeah, but then if you have like a lawful good fighter, they can be a lot more like a paladin, be like, yes, I will save the world. There can be your knight in shining armor type. Those tend to be easier to motivate, but it really depends on the fighter. And their alignment really plays a big part in how you would go about motivating them. Let's see, a lawful neutral fighter, probably something gross violation of the law, whether it be good or evil. And it's just sort of a quest to like bring someone to justice who's broken the law. Maybe they broke the law for a good reason, but a lawful neutral character is not going to care about that. They don't care about your reason for breaking the law. They just care that you broke the law. That's a problem. Don't do that. So yeah, it really depends on fighters. Fighters are they're trickier. Rogues, they can vary a little too, but they're never lawful. That's actually a restriction that they have. So yeah, they tend to, for that reason, be harder to motivate and typically typically more greedy, but not necessarily. Let's see. LOL, no weirdos. Yeah, exactly. And I don't mean that in a mean way. Yeah, we can't. Yeah, in I got to make sure, like everybody, like let's be real. I'm not exactly normal. I'm a bit of an oddball. I suspect most people who play D&D are a little bit oddballs. At least that's been my experience, and I love that about the community. I feel like I fit in more. So yeah, but some people in the community can go a little bit extreme, and I need to, when I start, if I do start that game, I need to make sure that don't get any of the really creepy guys out there. Keep it to, the less creepy guys, the guys who are just a little bit unusual like me, which is fun. I like people like that. Um, don't forget taxes. Yeah, there can be taxes that in games. That can definitely be a reason for stuff. It's not something I've used a lot in games, but it can be a motivator and stuff. You can. It makes for a more rich world if you actually include stuff like that, and it makes sense. Taxes are a thing that have existed in pretty much all society. There's a reason why they say nothing is certain except for death and taxes, because there really isn't any historical evidence of a society that existed without some form of taxes. It's just sort of a thing. Taxes are around in some way or another. People tend not to like them, but it's kind of a thing that you just need in order to have a functioning society. Society just doesn't work without taxes to some extent. So yeah, it makes sense. There's plenty of debate that can be had on how much taxes but I don't want to get into any of that. But you do need some. Would you consider doing 3.5 to 5e conversion guide? Maybe. I'm not as familiar with 5e and or 5e to 3.5 guide. Ooh, that one I don't think that one isn't really done. Like there are other people who have 3.5 to 5e conversion guides. I've seen those a lot. Mostly when I've tried to Google 3.5 stuff, a lot of 3.5 to 5e conversion stuff comes up. A 5e to 3.5 conversion, I don't think anyone's done that. That's a kind of a cool idea. Would love to have a good way to mix the best of both worlds in our games. Yeah, that could be cool. I personally strongly prefer 3.5 over 5e, but I do see some advantages to 5e, mostly just how easy it is to get into. Um, I really do like that about 5e, about how it's really grown the Dungeons and Dragons community as a whole. Um, it'd be nice if 3.5 could do that, but realistically, it just can't. It's too complicated. It scares off a lot of players, especially newer players. So yeah, I get that, and could be interesting to do conversions from like 5e to 3.5. Just kind of look at some kind of cool stuff and figure out ways to make it in 3.5. That'd be interesting. Might be worth a look. There are some significant differences between them, so I'd have to do a fair amount of research. So definitely won't be doing that anytime soon. But something to look at, something to potentially look into. Thanks for the idea. John is right. 4E never happened. Yeah, I haven't played 4E because I've heard the stories. And I kind of refused to ever play it because of that. I have heard some people say they liked 4E, and I can kind of see some advantages to it, but still, I'd rather not mess with that too much. I like to I like to keep like my card games and my my role playing separate. Because yeah, 4E was a hot mess. It was very much a departure from a tabletop RPG. It's just not it's not really a tabletop RPG. It's like tabletop RPG mixed with like a deck builder, from what I understand. It's except for, I guess, the deck building element wasn't super heavy, but still, I don't know, not a system that I'm too interested in learning. LMAO, I only ever played 2 sessions of 4E. Terrible. Gotcha. Yeah, I kind of refuse to play 4E. Yeah, it doesn't exactly have a good reputation in the community. So yeah, it's its own system, but and I've heard good things from some people, but I've heard mostly terrible things about 4E. I mean, 4E is the reason Pathfinder exists. Like legit, 4E came out, and a lot of D&D fans who were at the time all playing 3.5, because that was the system everyone was playing before 4E, because that was the new one before 4. And yeah, people saw that and were like, yeah, no. And they just were not happy. They were very upset about 4E. And no one really adopted it. Instead, what happened is, I think a bunch of former employees who were from Wizards of the Coast, they like left Wizards of the Coast and made Pathfinder, from what I understand. And like a lot of it was because they were just disgruntled about 4E, and because all the players were disgruntled about 4E, a lot of them switched over to Pathfinder. So yeah, like 4E was so bad it created, like, Dungeons and Dragons had a dang near monopoly on tabletop role playing games back in the mid 2000s. They did. Like, everyone was playing Dungeons and Dragons. They didn't play other stuff really. There was a little bit of niche stuff, but the vast majority of players were playing D&D. It's been that way for like 40 years, something like that. It'd been a long time. Like, that was the main tabletop role playing game. It had established like sheer dominance in the tabletop RPG market. And then they made 4E, and Pathfinder took over, and Wizards lost their monopoly. It was a big deal. And then other games started coming in because of that and gaining popularity. And 5E started to turn that back around, but it's not the same as it was. Like, Wizards, they took a hit. and it's one they'll never fully recover from because of the blunder of 4E, which is why they completely scrapped 4E from, or like almost completely scrapped 4E from 5E. There's almost no remnants of it. It's like 3.5. They basically took the best of 3.5 and Pathfinder, and then like added some of their own things that they use to make it more user friendly and like more like noob friendly. But yeah, they took a big hit. Let's see. Now I'm really going. All right, Urao, have a good one, man. Another a thing of 4E. There is a little to no class to class variation. Bard can cover the exact role as a cleric with the exact same efficiency and power level. That's all I've heard. Gospel it. Dang, that's dumb. And that is a thing that they did do a little bit with 5e, which I didn't like. The fact that they made it so that like any class can kind of handle any situation to some extent in 5e, like undead is really the one that really hits me on that. In 3.5, if you're going up an undead against an undead, things like the fighters and the wizards, they're going to struggle a little bit more than usual. Not too much, but the undead is going to be a little bit of a problem for them. They're going to find that this undead is a little bit tougher than an average enemy of the same CR, but not too much. Now your rogue is going to be like, crap, because they rely on sneak attack, and undead are immune to that. So they're going to just be like, no. And they're just going to be so much less useful against these undead. Meanwhile, the cleric who, maybe you had a cleric who wasn't even very good at combat. Now all of a sudden the cleric's like, you called? I will take care of these undead. And they'll just like obliterate those undead like they're nothing, because clerics are insane against undead. Paladins are quite good as well. Not as good as clerics, but clerics between turn undead and the fact that their healing spells just work as inflict on them, and they can use like cure mass and heal their team and also hurt the enemies at the same time. It's so good. It's a really, really, really good option that just got nerfed in both Pathfinder and 5e. So yeah, you have that. But in like, and then like I said, did get nerfed in for Pathfinder, in that you can only heal your ally or harm undead with cure spells in Pathfinder, and then 5e undead aren't hurt by cure spells, which is honestly just dumb. You can only heal with cure spells when you get to D&D 5e, which it's I really was not happy about that. That and undead in 5e are not immune to sneak attack. So rogues can sneak attack undead just fine for some reason. Apparently the undead's vitals still are vitals. I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. But yeah, for that stuff like that, they make it so that like what class you're playing isn't going to affect how competent you are in combats. They really tried to take that away and make it so that anyone can do any role to a certain extent, which I really don't like. I really don't like that about 5e. I get it. It makes it so that you can just get any random group of players together and run through any dungeon. But I don't like that. I like the fact that certain characters are better suited at certain things, and you want a good mix of everything in your party, so that and more on the stuff with more casters, so that you can handle everything. But yeah, 5e didn't do the best job of that. They made it so that anyone can do anything, which is unfortunate. Let's see. Don't gospel it. Yeah, that I get what you're saying. I've managed to get in with some family and old coworkers on a 5e game. Yeah, that it's a lot easier to do that with 5e than 3.5. A few veterans, mostly brand new players, but there's a ton of awesome and kick-ass source books from 3.5 that need converted. That is true. There are a lot of them. There are a number of videos that have converted a lot of that, though. But It's definitely something to look into. Although I don't know, 5e is something I have limited experience with. I played it for about a year. I wasn't the DM, I was just a player. So that'd be a little bit harder for me because I really don't have that. Like, I have the background in 3.5, but I don't have. I really have to study up on 5e to be able to do that because my 5e knowledge, I don't know if it's where it needs to be to actually do conversions on that. With 3.5 for sure. Converting backwards would actually be converting from 5e to 3.5 would actually be easier for me, because it's a lot easier to just look at the essence of what something is, and then convert it into the system that you know. Like, you don't need to know the system that you're converting from as well as you need to know the system that you're converting to, because you need to make sure it's balanced in the system you're converting to, and then you can just kind of look at it and be like, yeah, okay, let's make this balanced for the new system that it's coming into, regardless of how powerful it was in the other system. That's kind of irrelevant. So yeah, um, something to something to consider, but it would be tricky for me to pull that off. My 5e knowledge, I would need to study up a bit to pull that one off. Um, Best way to make new players aware of the glories of 3.5. Yeah, that's true. You have a real good point to that, because I mean, I would like to get. I really would like to grow the 3.5 community, and I didn't think of. I hadn't thought of that, but you have a point. Um, is to show them the cool stuff, classes and mechanics, and raise the awareness popularity of the older books. The only problem with that is it might just make it so that people play just play 5e, and make it so there's less reason to go back to 3.5. I don't know. Hard to say. Hard to say what doing that would cause. But you are right. And I would like to get more people who play 5e into 3.5. Um, and it is a bit of a trick. Generally, you would need to get them like to sit down at a game of 3.5, or at least a session 0, and just show them like a big old stack of 3.5 books and be like, "Yo, uh, let's make a character." Trust me, you I found that's a pretty good way to show people what 3.5 is just to hit them with a session 0 and let them just see just how crazy it can be, even at low levels, like what kind of options exist, and uh, how much flexibility there's for character creation, even at first level. Or I think I did that once with people. I think I started on like 6th level or something. Maybe it was 10th. I don't remember. I wanted it high enough that they could do some prestige classes. But yeah, could be interesting. Um, let's see. The end game goal is to convince them they like math. Well, yeah, that can be a bit of a problem. Some people actually do like math, like me. I actually genuinely enjoy math. Um, I suspect a number of 3.5 players might, just because it is so math intensive. Um, let's see, and get a 3.5 session restarted. So the 5e to 3.5 conversion would be awesome as hell. Yeah, uh, that could be really cool to do. Like, I could look into that. That's something. I do have some connections with some people who are much more familiar with 5e, and I could reach out to some people about giving me some ideas on particularly interesting 5e classes and stuff that could get converted back to 3.5. That could be something I could look into. I have some people I could reach out to on that. Um, let's see. What I like about 5e is the fact that the cleric doesn't have to be slapped into every team like a supermarket in any remotely modest-sized U.S. town. Healing is less centralized, but I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, you do generally want a healer. It doesn't have to be a cleric. It can be a druid, but I get what you're saying. Now, a lot of really experienced players will tell you don't really need that because healing in combat's not particularly useful, and really you're better off just buying potions. Uh, I've heard that argument from a lot of like really high level players. So you don't really need that. You could just buy potions, and apparently it's a better option. Um, So I don't know. I don't like the idea of buying potions personally, but I have heard that it is the better way to play. So yeah, I mean, there's that. But yeah, generally you do want a healer, and I've heard some horror stories of like some people like not wanting to be the healer and kind of being forced into the role, um, which can be a problem. So yeah. But yeah, in 5e, the fact that you can heal naturally with like a short rest and long rest, that is advantageous. Yeah. Let's see. What I like about okay, yeah, I read that one. For example, flanking. I shouldn't have to be a kobold to have advantage on a baddie when there's four of us surrounding him. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah, you get. Wait, what? You have to be a kobold? That what? I'm not sure what you mean on that. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're talking about with having to be a kobold to get advantage. What are you talking about? I'm curious. Michael, Gmail. Hey, Mitch. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing great, Michael. How are you doing, man? Thanks for showing up. Good to have you here. Khaled, as is. Not sure if there's anything in 5e that wasn't in 3.5. I'm not sure if there is or not. There may or may not be. I'm not super familiar with 5e, but I think there might be some stuff. Or maybe they just found some obscure stuff and made it less obscure in 5e in 3.5. Hard to say. Yeah, something to look into at the very least. But I think it's very likely that there is, especially seeing as 3.5's older, so someone might have come out with a new idea in 5e. It can't just all be recycled material, can it? Can it? I mean, maybe it is, but assuming that 5e isn't just entirely recycled material from 3.5, then there's got to be something in 5e that isn't in 3.5. Um, let's see. At least in 5e, potions are awful. It's like 1 HP. Yeah, potions aren't great. They're good in 3.5 though. Like they're just as good as a spell cast by a cleric of the minimum level to cast the spell. So a cure light wounds, that's 1d8 plus 1. Cure moderate wounds, that's 1d8 plus 3. Cure serious is what? No, sorry, not 1d8, 2d8 plus 3. Then it's 3d8 plus 5 for serious, and then what? 4d8 plus 7 for critical. Not bad. Um, Not bad at all. Oh, except for I don't think you can do fourth level, so I don't think critical potions exist. But still, that's pretty decent for healing and not too terrible on cost. So yeah, not too bad. Although honestly, spells like restoration or tend to be better options. Spells that heal over time tend to be really good for out of combat healing. In combat healing, yeah, you want to use potions. Although generally you just want to not heal in combat. You're much better off just killing things and uh, just killing more things is generally the better solution in combat in 3.5, unless you're doing like a Dynasty Warrior situation where you're fighting swarms of enemies. In which case, yeah, it might be better to pop a healing potion because killing things doesn't really lower the number of things around you because as you kill things, then other things are able to get closer. And yeah. But assuming you're not doing a Dynasty Warriors things where you're fighting like a Dynasty Warrior situation where you're fighting like hordes of enemies at once, yeah, healing in combat is not the best. You're better off just killing the thing and making it so you stop taking damage from things by lower, because when you kill things, you lower the enemy's what's the action economy. The more things that die, the lower the enemy's action economy, which is really king in 3.5. Action economy is everything. So killing enemies is far more helpful than healing typically. Let's see. 10 gold for 1d4 healing. I miscalculated. Still not the greatest. It's what, 50 gold for 1d8 plus 1 healing in 3.5, which isn't bad, although it's easier to get gold in 3.5 than 5e, from what I remember. I mean, flanking was always an option in 5e. It's mostly reworked to make it easier to play. Michael, I'm well. Nice. I have a new job and it's going well. I found an AD&D PHB at a flea market. Ooh, nice. For 20 bucks. Didn't buy it, but might go back for it. Nice, nice. I've never played AD&D, but that's really cool. That's some old stuff. That's older than 3.5. I think that's the generation. I think that was the game right before 3, if I recall. 5e potions start at 2d4 plus 2, but the cost is offset by how easy they are to make. Oh, interesting. I didn't know they were easy to make in 5e. But they're also less useful because short rests are not. You can heal from a good amount from a short rest. Like basically, you can heal fully from a short rest a couple of times a day. So it's not really a huge deal. But yeah, like 1 or 2 times a day, you can basically fully heal from a short rest in 5e. Whereas in 3.5, natural healing takes much, much longer. You heal from an 8-hour sleep, which is the same as a long rest, an amount equal to your hit dice per day. I think you can double that with bed rest and stuff, which I mean, it takes a long time to fully heal. In a full rest, you can fully heal from everything in 5e. So natural healing is much, much, much more difficult than 3.5, which is a big part of why you want a cleric, because yeah, it can take forever to heal without some sort of healer in the team, or potions or something. You need some way to heal that magically. Let's see, kobolds and goblins like race. But dragons, and they have a race ability called Pack Tactics. It lets you roll 2 dice to hit when ally is 5 feet of you, and choose the higher one for melee hits. Ooh, interesting. That's really interesting. Okay. You should read the lore of kobolds. They're somewhat intriguing. I might have to do that. That sounds interesting. Pack tactics, kobolds and dog slash wolf types are the closest thing to flanking available in 5e without feats and or class specialization or optimal rules at DM discretion. Base rules flanking is gone. That's dumb. Flanking is, it doesn't add that much. It just adds, well, I guess in 5e getting advantage is a much bigger deal than a +2 to your attack roll, but still, that's kind of dumb. And especially with like a rogue, the fact that they need flanking or something else in order to get their sneak attack, that's kind of big. So yeah, I don't know how getting sneak attack works in 5e, but dang, that sucks. I'm familiar with pack tactics. Usually goes on monsters in 5e. The original point was that it cancels out sunlight sensitivity. Interesting. They went out of their way to make a dedicated healer unnecessary. They did go out of their way to do that in 5e, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. I It is kind of nice that they don't have to have a dedicated healer, since it is a role that a lot of people don't want to do. I personally kind of like the role of dedicated healer, but it's a role a lot of people don't like, and I can see why not having that as a requirement is it has its advantages. It doesn't, pinhole, or it doesn't pigeonhole like the party into like having to have their dedicated healer, which is not a desired role for a lot of people. But at the same time, I do really like the idea of, you know, dedicated roles, like people needing certain roles. But 5e, it's not even just dedicated healer they went out of their way. It's all roles. You don't need a dedicated rogue. You don't need a dedicated anything in 5e, which kind of sucks. I really like the idea of, I really like in 3.5, you really need there's certain roles that really need fields. You need your healer, you need your rogue type to do your trap binding. It doesn't have to be a rogue, but it has to be somewhat similar. Beguiler works. You can get away with no rogue and a beguiler in a party, no problem. Beguiler's a weird one, but it does work for filling that role. You need your tank. You need your guy that just runs up and gets all the aggro. And then you need your DPS guys in the back. You need your wizards and your rangers and stuff. Your guys that kind of hide in the back and do a lot of damage. You really need those roles in 3.5. And honestly, it builds part of unity because everyone's like forced to rely on everyone else. 5e, the fact that they don't require any of that, it allows for people to have a more interesting, allows more flexibility in team building, sure, but at the same time, no member of the team is really essential in 5e. So, if someone leaves, it's not that big a deal. There's not, you don't really have that sense of unity that you have when you really need everybody to stick around. And everyone's just like, okay, I can't let the cleric die because he's our healer, or I can't let our tank die because then the aggro is going to shift to us, or we can't let the guys in the back die because then we're just going to get overrun. Like, we need everybody to stay alive. We need to all work together to get through this. Like, that's really big, and 5e just doesn't have that as much. So I don't know. Also made clerics much more than just support. They can be front lines or nukers. Yeah, you can do that in 3.5 though. You have to, a lot of people don't, because a lot of people don't see that the options of that. But you can absolutely do front lines and nukers as a cleric in 3.5. You just got to pick the right spells. It really just comes down to that, which a lot of people overlook the spells to do it, and they aren't thinking that way when they make a cleric, which is, it is what it is. But yeah, you can absolutely do that in 3.5, and they can be very effective too. They definitely went for flexibility rather than specialization as a design choice. Yeah, and that's something I don't like about 5e. The flexibility is kind of nice, but I like the specialization, and I like the customization of 3.5. It's why I stick with 3.5. It's a big part of it. At least initially. Now I've got a million other reasons too. Like, I own probably like a third of the 3.5 books, and I've studied them very well. So trying to switch to another system is a little bit difficult. And, I've now kind of established myself as the 3.5 guy here on YouTube. So, that's a reason why I personally stick with it at this point. But, all those other reasons are why I bought all those books, and why I set myself up as the 3.5 guy here on YouTube. I wouldn't have done that if I didn't have those other reasons. So, yeah, but that does kind of make it harder for me to switch to other systems. But yeah, if you want to balance role playing and mechanics, I think they made good choices for 5e. Yeah, that's true. I have found that a lot of 3.5 games that I've played do tend to focus more on mechanics than the role play. That is true, but definitely not good for wargaming. Yeah, 3.5 is a bit of a war game. To be fair, it does have some heavy wargaming elements to it. But yeah, we are at time on that, and I did enjoy hanging out with you guys. I thank you everyone who showed up. That was really fun. I hope everyone enjoyed our little Q&A or whatever it was, or whatever you want to call this. This is the last one for 500 subs. So we won't be doing this again until we hit 1,000 subscribers. Although we will be doing more and longer ones when we hit that. And we are making good progress. It's like 540 or something like that last I checked. So it might not be too long before we hit that. But yeah, I will. I am streaming on Twitch if anyone's interested. I am going to be putting some stuff on my YouTube channel. I'll probably put a link on the about page or something, um, linking that for anyone that happens to be interested. Uh, I'll probably make a video about it at some point in the near future. That's something I've been planning on for a while. I've just been I've been having a hard time, but I'll probably get to that here soon, hopefully. Your determination will see you through. I appreciate that, man. I really do. Um, uh, but yeah, I will see you guys soon. If you're interested in checking me out on Twitch, feel free to do so. I posted a link in chat a while ago. It's probably gone by this point, but I'll post something on my channel. Anyways, I'll probably start streaming there in a second too. But you can always just Google, or you can always just search Mitch Burns. I'll probably come up. I do use the same name, but I'm actually going to be starting that here in a second. But anyways, I will see you guys. Thanks for hanging out. And peace. Sorry, I'm doing my Twitch exit because that is different. Anyways, as always, I'm Mitch. I'll be seeing you